let's build some assignments. Let's go into our assignment tab right here on the left hand side. We're going to click that first. We've got a clean slate right here, nothing going on. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to build our assignment groups. So that is going to be all of our groups that we have on our syllabus. So for our imaginary class, we're going to have, our groups are going to be classroom participation. And we'll say we're going to give them 5% of the course is going to be covered in that, okay? And so we save that, and there it is. We have 95% remaining. Now we're going to have a capstone project, and so let's just go ahead and get that out of the way right off the bat. And we're going to say, we're going to add an assignment group. There we go. Capstone project. And that's going to be 30% of the course. It's a big deal. Make sure you prepare for it. Okay? Now we're going to have our weekly study questions. That's going to be 25% of the course. And then we're going to have all the tests are going to go into one group. And that's going to be 25% of the course. And then we're going to have discussions. We'll say online discussions. So they're outside the classroom. They're for your folks to get together and discuss things that are going on in class. And we have 15% left, so we'll use 15%. Okay. Let's say we want to offer an extra credit option. Yeah, don't. I'm just kidding. There's a couple of ways to accomplish that. One of the ways to give extra credit is simply by giving more points than the assignment allows. So if the assignment allows 100 points, you can give it 110, and you've just given them extra credit. And it'll allow you to do that up to giving double the credit of the assignment. That's the best way. If you want to give actual extra credit work, you have to be very careful because you can wind up really skewing the grade if you don't do it properly. So we're not going to address that any further right now. Okay, here we go. So we have our different categories. Now notice that I've weighted them differently, as I mentioned before. This is the way that I make it really easy for my students to figure out what's important and what's not. Early on, when I was first teaching in my first online classes, I think the first ones were in the summer of 2012. It might have been the summer of 2013, but I think it was summer of 2012 was EPIC's first online classes when we did them on Moodle. And I had a bunch of little tiny assignments, and all of these tiny assignments combined were worth 10% of the grade. And then I had a couple of really big assignments, and they were worth, between the three of them, they were worth the rest of the grade. So I had a student that went through and did these like 20 different little 2-minute assignments. They were just watch a quick video and just say you watched it basically. And then they skipped the 3 major assignments and said, well, good grief, professor, I did the bulk of the work for the class and I only missed 3 assignments. Why did I get a F minus? And so I always make sure I want this to be very clear to the students since that time, because it can be quite confusing. So I use the percentages here to weight them. Now, when I add assignments, I'm going to show you what I do that makes it really easy for the students to understand how much an assignment is worth. Okay, so what we do is we're going to add an assignment. Now, let's start off with adding our weekly study questions. Okay, so I'm going to click Add an Assignment. And let's say we have 3 weeks in our class. This is a 3-week micro-abbreviated class. So we're going to put in, this will be study questions 1, no period. And I might put in what the reading is. We'll say Grudem, Erickson, that's the article you're going to read, okay? And they're going to answer questions about it. Now, what type of assignment is it? Is it grade only? If it's grade only, that means the student, all they have to do is click on it and say hello and then enter, and that's the extent of it. That's all they can do, and then you assign a grade. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a file. You can do a regular file or a peer-reviewed file if you want the other students to be able to open that student's file and to look at it and to comment on it. You can click peer-reviewed file, but I just use file. All right, now points. Every assignment is worth 100 points. And the reason I do that is because I've already weighted the assignments in the assignment groups. So I don't need to re-weight them within the class. If I want to distinguish, let's say, between a midterm and I want to make the midterm worth a certain percentage and I want to make the final double that percentage, then I'm going to separate those in the groups, and I'm going to have a midterm group and I'm going to have a final group, and the midterm will be worth 10% of the final grade and the final test will be worth 20% of the final grade. That way it's very clear to the students, and the points on the test will be 100, period. Okay, now are the points of the assignment. It's not extra credit. What group does it belong to? Well, it's study questions, so it's going to belong to the weekly study questions group. Now it's categorized properly. Is it going to be published? Well, if you don't want to publish it yet because you're working on it, you can push no, but I would just click yes because it's really easy to forget. What is the due date? Well, these are the dates this is giving me for being open, so I'm going to select a due date. So it's going to be due on Sunday the 3rd. And if you don't select the time, it'll automatically make the time 11:59 p.m. So I just don't put the time in there on these kinds of assignments. When is it available? It's going to be available. If you don't want the student to start it early, you can click a from date, and you can say, well, it's only going to be available from this time to that time. Or you can say it's only going to be available after, and then it'll say it'll only allow the student to open it after a certain date, which is usually unnecessary. Or it's only available until, which means if they don't get it in by a certain date, then they can't access it anymore, and you can set that. Let's say I set that, since it's due on the 4th, let's say Thursday's the last day it's worth any points, so I put it it's available until then, and that's the end of it. Or I can select always available, in which case the students can start earlier, they could turn it in late, and then they can negotiate with you for points. Notice I didn't put description in here. I can, so let's go ahead and do that now. So what I want to do is I want to put in something that's attractive to look at. So I'm going to highlight it and make it in bold by putting in the asterisk and the plus sign. And I'm going to say answer the following questions about something. Okay, and then I'm going to complete it. And when I do that, you'll see that it looks colorful. Hit save, and there is my assignment. Okay, now I can go in and edit, or I can delete it if I want to. At this point, it's 100% of the course because that's all there is in the course. But this will be handy as well later. Okay, now let's say that I want to add in a discussion. Okay, so we're going to say we're going to go in here. We're going to say add an assignment, and we're going to say discussion 1. It's going to be why I like cheeseburgers. Because they're not kosher, and I'm a rebel. Okay, and we're going to click on what kind of assignment is it. It's going to go into, it's a discussion. It's a new discussion, okay? And how many points is it? Well, I'm going to say it's 100. The course will divide it all up appropriately. And what group does it go into? It goes into the online discussion group. Now it knows that it's only supposed to be a certain percentage of the course. What date is it due? Now this is interesting. For online professors, I always tell them put it due on Thursday, because it's going to show the student, remind the students on Thursday, get your first post in, because online students have to post initially on Thursday and then they post to 2 classmates by Sunday. If you're using that kind of structure, it's fine. If not, just go ahead and put in Sunday as your due date, and maybe you're going to look at it and say, I just want to see that you were on there and you were participating with your fellow classmates throughout the week. Or maybe that you want a significant initial post. You're going to explain all of that up here in the description. And we're going to make this one in italics by putting a underline at each end of it. Okay. And when is it available? Again, we've discussed how you can do that. And then also, is it visible to the students before it's available? So if you didn't, that would be kind of cruel, I guess, to have assignments just randomly appear, but you could actually do that to where students' assignments didn't show up until the students, until it was time to do it. So I click Save, and there we have, oh, but it says Draft. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay, now I want to add another assignment, and we're going to say Capstone Project. So that's going to be our big description. I just wanted to make you cry. Okay, we'll use serious descriptions in our classes though, right, professors? Okay, and I'll give you some examples of those in just a moment, show you what you can do with this and make it look really nice. What type of assignment is it? Are you going to have them submit a file, which is going to be a paper that's in a Word document? Are you going to have them do it as an essay where they write it online, or they can submit it as a file, or a peer-reviewed essay? For our purposes, it's a big project. They're going to submit it as a file so that only you can see it. 100 points, because again, the assignment groups knows that's 30% of the course. You don't have to mess with the points. Not extra credit, just extra work. Published, yes. When is it due? It's going to be due the last day of class, which should be the Sunday, not the Monday. And when is it available? It's always going to be available to make the students always sweat and worry about what they're doing. So, oh, and I wrote Capstone Project. Well, that's a mistake, so I want to edit that. So I just opened it back up by clicking on it. I'm going to go over here to Edit, and I'm going to click Capstone. Now, while we're here, well, not yet. I won't show you yet. Okay, but you can see here that all of your information about your class is here, about your assignment is here. And this section is what the students are going to see when they click on an assignment and go directly to this, which you may want them to do or you may not want them to do. So we have 3 assignments now. We want to also enter a test. So let's add a test. We'll call this midterm. And we'll give it a random description. And then we're going to enter it as a test. Now, some new things pop up. You see we have some new options. First option, fixed points. So you can assign each question a specific number of points. So you can have questions that are worth 10, questions that are worth 5, questions that are worth 100. You can break it up that way. Or you can write your test out. Don't worry about the points, and it will divide them all equally. That's also an option. Or you can just figure out what we want the points to be and let it total them up. So I'm going to put in here weight questions equally, which was not going to be your normal choice, but for our purposes it'll work. And I'm going to put the assignment total at 100 points. So when I'm building the test, it will restrict me to 100 points. Okay. Is it going to be published? Yes. When is it due? Let's say it's due. Let's see, where's the midterm in my 1-month class? It's going to be right there, Wednesday the 13th, 11:59 p.m. They're doing this test online. So this is a nice option for you who are in the classroom. If you want to do an open book test, this is a great place to do it. Do it online. You don't have to waste classroom time. They can, if it's open book, they can open the books at home as easily as they can open them in the classroom. Unless you run out of things to say in the classroom and you want to use that time for taking a test. I never run out of things to say. Okay, is it always available? You're not going to have it always available because it's a midterm. So you're going to put it available after. Okay, and we're going to say available after. Actually, we might even go available from. There we go. Available from gives us the from and the to date. So it's due on the it's the 13th when it's supposed to be done. So let's do this for our students. Let's give them a couple of days. We're going to say you can take it on the 12th if you want to. Now let's not do that because we don't want to tempt people to cheat. Do it on the 13th, and it's available until the 14th, but it's not available all day on the 14th. We want you have until 10 a.m. on the 14th because we don't want you cheating. Or 10:01 a.m. because class starts at 10 a.m. and so they need to have it done before they come to class. Okay, so they've got that whole time period. It's going to be available to them from 12:01 a.m. on the 13th until 10:01 a.m. on the 14th. Time limit. Do you want to limit the time? Now that's an interesting thing. Some people use the time limit to make it hard for students to cheat. So if you wanted to give students a test, you give them 30 minutes to take the test. They don't have time to look up all the answers in their textbooks. I don't find that testing online works well that way. It just creates stress for the student that's unnecessary, puts them in an ethical quandary that's unnecessary. So I don't put a time limit on my test, but let's say that you had planned on giving a test that had a 2-hour time limit in the classroom, an open book test. Well, then make it have a 2-hour time limit at home for the open book test. That way they can't just sit there and work on it all night or call their friends and do a bunch of research, right? Okay, retake policy. Can they retake it? If so, what do you do? Keep the most recent score? Do you average all the scores, or do you keep the highest score? Having students retake tests and certain kinds of testing is a great strategy for learning, because even though you don't test what knowledge they have been able to cram into their brain, you actually wind up forcing them to remember stuff because they keep taking it because they want to get a higher grade. Okay, retakes allowed. How many are allowed? Require proctoring. If this test is being done remotely, you can require that somebody be there in person to proctor the test, although I've never done that. And we click Save. Now we have a test, but it has no questions. We're going to have another video on how to make test questions. So there it is. So these are our assignments for our course, and I'm going to show you on another video how to go into assignments and how to set them and make them look nice, and how to put them into lessons. But let's just review for a moment on this. You have the assignment groups. You set those up first, and then you set up your assignments for your class. Now, whether you're online or whether you are in the classroom, you're going to do at least this. Okay, and so you can go in on some of these and you'll just enter the grade. So if you're doing all the work in the classroom and you're having your students submit nothing online, which I recommend against, then you're just going to make everything grade only. You'll do all the work by hand and you're just going to enter the grade, and there will be nothing online for the students to see. But if you want to make it easier to keep track of all of your work and all of your assignments, you can have students turn stuff in online, and that way you'll have it available to you, and then you can interact with it online. I'm going to show you how to do that in a later video as well. So assignment groups, assignments within the assignment groups. Please notice on the right that as I put my assignments in, and once I publish this one, this would change as well, it shows you what percentage of the entire course each assignment is. And these percentages will get smaller and smaller as you enter all of your assignments in. And so then the student will be able to go over and look and say, wow, you know what? This capstone project is a lot of the course. And these study questions, they're a lot of they're a little bit of the course. They'll be able to make some decisions on how much work they put in, how to budget their time, things like that. Hopefully that helps you, and I will see you on our next